first, you will have seen from the B-roll that I did end up doing a little bit of book shopping yesterday. I do think it's almost like a bad boy misunderstood. And then we come to what I fear is going to be my new obsession. I just cannot stop smiling. Lovelies! Welcome or welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name's Maria and today's video is going to be another reading vlog, and I'm really excited about the books I'm going to be reading this week because one of them's a really highly anticipated release for this year and the other one is one that I feel is getting a little bit of traction recently, and it kind of mixes two of some of my favourite kind of themes, so I definitely think I'm going to be in for a good week of reading. But the first book that I'm going to be reading is The Night and the Moth by Rachel Gillig. Now this doesn't come out until May, but I was very lucky to get an ARC ebook for this one because the publisher sent this to me because I had reviewed, I think it was Two Twisted Crowns when it was out as an ARC as well, so they sent this to me to kind of review this one as well because I really enjoyed that series. And as I say, this is one of my most highly anticipated releases this year and I really can't wait to get into it. I honestly don't know anything about what it's about. I think it's something to do with a seer or something like that, and there's a certain knight who she can't see his future, something around that, but all I know is it's going to be probably a little bit dark, a little bit gothic. I really loved Rachel Gillig's writing in One Dark Window and Two Twisted Crowns, so really hoping I'm going to love this as well. And honestly, just the cover, I know it's on the Kindle so you might not be able to see it too well, but the cover of this one is really beautiful. But I'll put a picture of the cover somewhere on the screen as well so you can see, but definitely really intrigued by this one and cannot wait to get into it. And the best bit about it is I'm going to be buddy reading with my friend Clara because she actually has the physical ARC of this one and has been holding off to try and read it maybe a bit closer to the release date because I believe it comes out in May, so it's almost the end of April now, so perfect time to be reading it just before it's released. So we're both going to be buddy reading that together and it's always a fun time when I'm buddy reading with her. And then the next book I'm going to be reading, or at least I plan to read, is possibly one of the most pretty books I've got from my Fairy Loot subscription to date, and it's The Rose Bargain by Sasha Peyton Smith. And all I really know about this one is that it's apparently Bridgerton crossed with the Cruel Prince vibes. I believe there's kind of trials within here to get a certain wish from the Fae Queen, something like that, and then I think there's like a maybe selection vibes when it comes to the chance to marry the Fae Prince. All of that sounds perfect. Regency-esque kind of romance with a bit of Fae thrown in there, a bit of magic. Just sounds like it's going to be perfect for me, so really wanted to pick this one up. And as I said, it's one of the most beautiful books I think we've got from Fairy Loot, and I think this cover was by Bluely Boo and I love her designs, I love her artwork, so this is just absolutely beautiful. Got some really beautiful sprayed edges, and the things that made me really want to read this book is actually the artwork on the end papers. It's really pretty and definitely intrigues me. We've got masked balls by the looks of it and just sounds like it's going to be perfect for me, and I really love the naked hardback of this one as well. So yeah, this just sounds like it's going to be quite whimsical, quite fairy tale-esque. There's going to be probably some angst in here as well, and yeah, just really excited to pick this one up because I'm hearing nothing but great things about it, so we'll definitely be picking this up this week. And then I may add a third book in here. Usually I do read around 2.5 to 3 books per week, so just depending on how I get on with these two, how long they take me to read, I may add in something else before the video ends. But these are kind of my confirmed TBR for the week. I'll probably be reading them at the same time because I do have the audiobook for The Rose Bargain as well, but obviously Night and the Moth, it is an ARC, so I'll be reading that physically, so may read them in tandem and obviously just give you updates on my thoughts and feelings and how they're going as I go along. But yeah, really excited to get into both of these, so hopefully be starting both of them today because I have just finished my last book, and I'll probably give you an update once I've read a little bit into them to give you a bit more information about what they're about, what the writing's like, if I feel like I'm going to enjoy it. Just give you an update once I've read a little bit into them. lovely. So jumping on to give you a reading update, but first you will have seen from the B-roll that I did end up doing a little bit of book shopping yesterday. Completely unintentional. We went in for some lunch and Waterstones was right there. Double stamps day. So I ended up going in and having a look just to see if there was anything that kind of tickled my fancy. I wasn't really kind of looking to buy anything. I am very much in the mindset of the minute of trying to curb on my book buying, but it's really difficult. It is really hard because, to be honest, it's my only really hobby is reading and book buying. So if I give up one, what else am I going to do with my time? So I did end up picking a few things up, so I'll just go through those now. So first thing I ended up getting was this tote because it was raining yesterday, and in Waterstones they give you paper bags and I just didn't want the books to get ruined, so ended up purchasing another tote from them, and I think this is quite a new one. I haven't seen this one before, but thought it was quite cute, so I ended up picking that one up. And then the 3 books I ended up picking up are, well, 2 were ones that were on my radar before and I just wanted to get a physical copy of them. And then the 3rd one was pure impulse. I think I heard one person talking about it, read the back of it, read a couple of paragraphs and was pretty much sold that it's something I'm probably going to enjoy. So the first book I got is Parable of the Sower by Octavia E. Butler, and this is one I've wanted to read for a really long time, and as told by Kat has told me many times that they reread this year and then read the second one, and it's an absolutely perfect book. I had hoped to kind of read it earlier in the year, but because I was going through a bit of a slump, I decided not to because I really do want to fully immerse myself within this and really have good takeaways from it. And the reason I got the physical copy is I think I may annotate it when I'm reading it. So I wanted to get the physical copy. All I know about this is it's a little bit dystopian. It was written quite a long time ago. I'm not exactly sure when, but a lot of people kind of say it's quite eerie to read this because it was written about the future. But some of those things have already kind of come to pass on what Octavia E. Butler was kind of predicting. So a bit of a scary one to read, a dystopian novel where things are starting to come true. But I do think it's going to be a really impactful read. So let's say I just want to get a physical copy so that when I do read it, I can hopefully annotate this as well. Then next up is Everything I Know About Love by Dolly Alderton. And this one again is one that I've had on my radar for probably since it came out really. It was a bit of an it book when it came out. This one I believe is kind of told in a fictional style but is more of a memoir of her life in kind of her late teens and 20s. And I think this is a perfect one to read probably if you're going through those times as well. But for me I think I'm going to read it and probably just reminisce on those times. Reminisce on our kind of shared experiences likely. Kind of the things that we go through growing up through those ages as women. I just think it'd be a really interesting read and kind of a break from the usual genres that I'm reading. So again decided to pick up a physical copy because I would like to read this immersively and listen to the audiobook. She does narrate the audiobook as well. So I think that'll be a really fun aspect of listening to this as it's her narrating it as well. But yeah, as I say, been on my radar for quite some time, so again decided to pick up a physical copy. Then this is my impulse buy. It's The Ornithologist's Field Guide to Love. That's by India Holton. And this one, from what I've kind of gathered in it, is kind of a Regency enemies to probably lovers, but in a very light-spirited way, very whimsical. I believe it's 2 professors who are kind of pitting against each other to try and win a certain competition and obviously end up having to work together to try and better their chances of winning that competition. And just sounds like it's going to be a really fun read. It maybe gives me the kind of same vibes as Half a Soul or something like that by Olivia Atwater. Just kind of that Regency romance side of things with a little bit of whimsy and a little bit of magic in there. So yeah, bit impulsive, but heard maybe one person talking about this one and decided to give it a go. So in terms of my reading updates, in the Rose Bargain I'm probably about 40% of the way through this one. It's actually proving to be a pretty quick read for me, especially because I'm using the audiobook along with it as well, and really liking the narration on there. Definitely think it suits the vibes and the tone of the story, and this one so far I'm definitely really enjoying it. I'm definitely seeing the Bridgerton comparisons where we have these ladies who are kind of vying obviously for the prince's hand, but also just in terms of kind of the competition between the ladies to be the best, almost be the belle of the ball, the way they're all kind of worried about their reputation within the ton as they call it. And so far within this we have kind of met 2 princes within here. So the prince that they're obviously all competing to marry, and then his brother who has been described as a bit of a rake. He's kind of I think the character who's supposed to be a bit of the cruel prince, and at the moment yes he was giving off kind of those bad boy vibes at the start, but I do think it's almost like a bad boy misunderstood, or he's probably going to end up being a much nicer person than everybody thinks he is. There's going to be a lot of misunderstandings about him, but we are getting a lot of time with him because he's kind of helping our main character along in this competition, and so far just really enjoying it. I think definitely the word fun is a good way to describe this one. I wouldn't say I'm obsessed with it or anything, but I'm definitely intrigued to see where the story goes. A lot of people have said that kind of the last bit of it is like a huge twist and will really make you highly anticipate the next book, so be interested to see how this goes. But yeah, really fun so far, really enjoying it, really enjoying the writing, enjoying the kind of atmosphere in here. It's very whimsical, a little bit mischievous when it comes to kind of the fae side of things, very minimal kind of dark undercurrent. I wouldn't say this was any true through comparison to kind of the darkness of the Cruel Prince, but I can see it kind of creeping in there, so be intrigued to see if that kind of develops a bit more in the second half of the book. But yeah, so far so good for this one. And then for The Night and the Moth, I think I'm obsessed already. With this one I'm only at, let me just double check, 22%, but literally from page 1 I was enthralled in this. I really wanted to know what was going to happen. This has kind of been described as quite a gothic story, and I would kind of describe it as a gothic fairy tale, so we're definitely getting kind of that fairy tale vibe with a lot of the things that are happening in here. But it does have an air of lightness that I wasn't expecting, so I was expecting this to be quite gloomy, dark, suspenseful, just because it had been kind of described as that gothic side of things. But I would say this is more like a dark fairy tale for me, where we're getting a lot of light moments to kind of lift us up from that darkness, but you can definitely feel the dark undercurrents in here in terms of the atmosphere, the setting, and some of the people who we've been introduced to were straight away, there's a few that I'm like, I don't trust them. They're not going to be as reverent as they're making out. So I won't say who because I don't want to spoil it for anyone, but to give you a bit more insight into kind of characters in here, we have Sybil, who's the main character, who is what is known as a diviner, and essentially their role is to be drowned so that they can go into kind of this dreamland to get visions of someone's kind of fate. So it's all done through this dreamland where they see these omens who all have a certain stone, and depending on what she sees through those visions will determine that person's fate. Now the diviners have kind of lived there from they were all very young. They do like a tenure there, and they'll be living there for around maybe 10 years, and Sybil and her kind of group are almost at the end of their tenure and are starting to be a bit curious about the world outside this cathedral. And at the very start of the story, the king along with all of his knights kind of come to this cathedral to get the king's fate read, and the story kind of goes from there. I don't want to give too much away on this one, but what I will say is I'm loving the banter between the main female character and the main male character. Straight away I felt their connection, even though it's not like an insta love or anything. I just felt there was a connection there with the way they were bantering with each other, but it does feel quite natural even though it happened quite quickly. I'm loving the banter between the diviners and the group of girls who are almost like sisters at this point because they have lived together basically their whole lives. And then we do have some characters in here who are gargoyles, who are definitely adding a lot of comic relief within here, one in particular. And yeah, as I said, there's just a lot more comedy in here than I was expecting. I was expecting it to be a lot more dark and kind of suspenseful, but while we're still getting those kind of gothic and eerie tones, this has had me chuckling from page 1. So really loving this, really loving the writing style. I kind of feel like it's going to be a 5-star already. I don't want to hype it up in my head too much, but it's really feeling like a 5-star to me so far. I'm really immersed in it. I really want to keep reading. Hoping to get a good bit of this read today. I didn't have as much time yesterday to physically read, but hoping I'm going to remedy that today and get a good bit through this one because I'm just chomping at the bit to see what happens. So yeah, I think so far this week we're off to a really great start. I'm really loving both of my reads, really feeling immersed in them, really interested to see where they go, so really hoping that my slump is fully gone. I kind of felt it for the last few weeks that I've been more interested in my reads, and this week I'm definitely feeling like I'm really interested in what I'm reading, so I do think that my slump is kind of gone, but we're touching wood. I'm not going to jinx it or anything, but I am feeling really positive about these reads. But yeah, plan for tonight is once I finished work, probably just sit down, get a hot drink and read for a couple of hours before I need to make dinner. It's my husband's birthday at the weekend, so today is Tuesday, so I really want to try and get these books both finished by Thursday, so trying to fit in as much reading as I possibly can. I think The Rose Bargain, I'll probably finish it pretty quickly. I have been reading it quite quickly because of the audiobook, and because obviously if I'm cleaning or anything like that I can listen to that while I'm doing that, and I don't kind of have to set aside time to read it. So I think I'll probably finish that by tomorrow, to be quite honest. But with the pace that I am reading The Night and the Moth, I don't think it's going to be a problem finishing that by then as well, because any free time I have I'm going to be picking that up. But yeah, I'll probably jump on with The Rose Bargain, depending on if anything changes. I might just wait till the end of that book to come on and give you an update, but if there's any kind of tone changes that I want to kind of update you on, I'll definitely let you know. And then with The Night and the Moth, maybe once I'm 50 to 60%, I'll give you an update on that one, because again I'm only at 22% of that one, and even though it feels like a 5-star now, a lot can change within that time. So yeah, I'll read a bit more of both of these and jump on once I've got some more updates. lovelies, just jumping on because I do have a couple of updates. So first update is I have now finished The Rose Bargain, and I have to say I did really enjoy this. I thought this was a really fun book. I definitely think it did give the vibes that I was expecting, so Bridgerton mixed with a little bit of The Cruel Prince. It doesn't quite have as dark vibes as that until right at the end, but I can definitely see where those comparisons come from. I really liked the main character in here, Ivy. I think she was quite smart, she was very determined, and even though there were things that she was doing that I maybe didn't agree with, I could definitely understand her motivations, and it made her really easy to root for. Not sure if I mentioned in the last clips, but there is a little bit of a love triangle going on in here between the prince, his brother, and our main character, and I think from the start you can definitely see who the favourite is, so it wasn't really a shock when we got to that point, but it was interesting still to kind of see their dynamic and to see them kind of grow within the relationship. But I think I would have liked to maybe see a little bit more of it. We did have some chapters where we were kind of put into the minds of some of the other guards within the trials, and I do think that did add a good bit of depth within the story and kind of the wider narrative, but I might have liked a bit more just with the main characters and maybe spending a bit more time developing their relationships, but it was still believable. I still really rooted for them as well, so overall still really enjoyed that aspect. And yeah, while I think this isn't going to be a new kind of favourite for me, it's not going to be kind of one of my top 10 reads, I do think it was really enjoyable. I think it was full of drama, full of magic, full of fun, a good amount of romance in there with a little hint of darkness as well, so I think this is setting out to be quite an enjoyable series for me. I do want to read the sequel with the way that this one ended. Twist didn't quite shock me, but I didn't guess it either. So that's a win in my book. It wasn't quite predictable, but it didn't shock me at the same time. But it has made me intrigued to see where the story goes and kind of how that leads into a sequel. But yeah, ended up giving this one 4 stars. As I say, not going to be an all-time favourite or anything, but definitely really enjoyable. Kept me entertained. There was a little bit of a slow bit between kind of the 50 to 70% mark, but other than that, I was really intrigued by this one and it kept me engaged, and yeah, definitely recommend this if you haven't picked it up yet. And then we come to what I fear is going to be my new obsession with Night and the Moth. So I'm around 70% of this one, and honestly it's just because I have not been able to put this one down. Any chance that I've got to read this, I've been picking it up because it is so good, it's so addictive, really intriguing. Talking about predictable and unpredictable storylines, this has been unpredictable the whole way through. I'm usually quite good at predicting kind of where a story's going to go or the tangent it's going to take. This one is keeping me on my toes. When it comes to the love interest, talk about slow burn and yearning, and honestly I've been reading it, and when I read I always do kind of make fun of myself because I know my face is just flat. There's no emotion, nothing is shown on there. I could be kind of dying inside and nothing is happening, so you know it's a good book when my face is kind of showing it. And honestly the whole time I've been reading this I think I've just been sitting like this because I just cannot stop smiling. I cannot stop the smile on my face, whether it be because of moments within the romance or just the side characters with their one-liners. I'm living for the gargoyle in this that has just honestly some of the best characterization that I've read in a long time. I love him so much. But yeah, I'm just obsessed with this, honestly obsessed. I just think the world is so intriguing, it's so unique, and I just don't want to put it down. I only have about 30% left and I think I'm going to try and finish it tonight, mainly because my husband's birthday is tomorrow, so I'll probably not get too much time reading because I'll be spending time with him. I do want to try and finish this as soon as possible, so I do think it's doable. I have a few hours where I'll be able to just sit and read tonight and hopefully binge the end of this because I honestly have no idea where it's going and I really want to know. Really intrigued. So this has the potential to be my favourite book that I've read this year so far, and I know that's a big statement because I've read quite a few really good books this year, but I haven't felt this way about a book in a long time and it's getting me really excited. So yeah, definitely gonna try and finish this one tonight, and I'll jump back on once I've finished and to give you kind of my final overview and update. I can't remember if this is going to be a series or if this is a standalone. I'm kind of hoping it's a series because I'm absolutely loving this. Give me 10 books in this style and I will be happy. So yeah, really loving that. I think if I can, I may squeeze in another book within this video. It's now Thursday. As I say, my husband's birthday is tomorrow and I do want to try and get this up on Sunday, so might have a look and see if there's any maybe short romances or something like that that I could fit in before Sunday to add in here. But once I finish The Night and the Moth and once I've kind of got my final thoughts and feelings, I'll jump on and let you know, and if I'm going to read another book in this video, I'll update you on which one it'll be at that point, because right now this is my main priority and I just want to finish this before tomorrow. Okay, so it's now Saturday. I didn't get a chance to jump on and update you yesterday, but I have now finished The Night in the Moth, and I honestly loved this one so much. It was everything I love in a romantasy. There was a perfect balance between kind of the plot line and the romance and the found family and the lore of the land. So I just really loved it. I think if you ever get those books where kind of from the first maybe 1 to 10 pages you just know you're going to love it, this was one of those books for me. I just absolutely got swept away from the very first page, and it's one of the first books this year that I've really felt like I didn't want to put it down. I did have to kind of put it down here and there, just life getting in the way, busy week at work. It's the first book in a while where I've really felt like I cannot wait to pick that back up. I need to see what happens. I don't want to put it down. I want to be reading it constantly, and I'm really glad I physically read this one rather than trying to audiobook it or anything, because I really feel that helped me immerse myself right into it. And again this year, just because I've been feeling slumpy, I have been finding it difficult to want to sit down and read physical books without immersive reading, and I feel like this has really broken that curse for me. So I went into this one kind of expecting some moody and gothic vibes with a little bit of romance, and I definitely think it delivered on that, but it definitely also delivered so much more. The world building was really eerie. There were crumbling cathedrals, there were whispers of the old magic and the omens. And when it comes to the romance between the FMC and the MMC, it was definitely very quiet. It kind of felt like it was happening by candlelight. You really felt like you were falling in love with them. The dynamic between them initially, just as soon as they met on page, was electric. And you know, if you've been here a while, I'm definitely a slow burn girl. I don't like it to be kind of insta-lust or anything like that, but I do love when there's an instant connection and when they're kind of snarky with each other, and yeah, I just really felt the chemistry between them was really believable, and I could immediately see it on page. I think I said it in one of my previous updates, and it probably does sound pretty weird, but my favourite character in here was a gargoyle who will just really touch your heart, and if you read this, I think he will be your favourite character as well. He kind of provided endless comic relief. He was just really endearing and just a really unique addition to the story, and really helped to kind of build that found family aspect that I love in books like this. And I just think if you're a fan of kind of gothic, eerie stories with slow burn romance that have characters that you're going to fall in love with, and it definitely has a bit of a twist at the end, because again, I forgot to mention, I think this is going to be a series, so this is the first book in, I'm not sure if it's a trilogy, duology, or what it's going to be, but there was a twist at the end, which at around the 70 to 80% mark, I kind of got the inkling of what was going to happen, but it still kind of shocked me when it did in the way that it happened. And a lot of the romantasy that I've been reading recently has been very predictable from the start, and I do think that can happen with any genre. You know, if you read enough of it, you're going to know kind of the patterns to look out for, and you're going to recognise when things are going to happen. But I do think that it was so masterfully done in here that I didn't pick up on it until like the 70, 80, even 90% mark, and that's when I kind of knew, okay, I can see something's going to happen here. So it continually kept me guessing, and I just think if you love that gothic, eerie, slow burn, mystical but a little bit whimsical atmosphere, that you'll definitely love this one. And if you read One Dark Window and The Shepherd Duology by Rachel Gillig, obviously the writing style will be quite similar to that because she's the same author. But I do think that even though I love that series, I mean, I gave those books 5-star, this is like 5-star. I don't know if that makes sense, but this is like a level above that even for me, because I just really, really love this. Was absolutely obsessed. And now I'm just sad because I'll have to wait for the next book, which won't be announced for God knows how long, because this one isn't even out yet. So kind of the downside of reading arcs, but I'm just so incredibly grateful that I ended up getting this one, because it was one of my most anticipated reads this year and I've really, really loved it. So highly, highly recommend this one. And then I did mention that I might try and squeeze another book in here, and I think I will. I do need to get this vlog up tomorrow, but I think I'll be able to squeeze this book in before then, because I have read a little bit of it already, and that's Great Big Beautiful Life by Emily Henry. Now, I do like Emily Henry, and she would be probably one of my favourite maybe literary fiction or romance authors, but I'm not like a huge fan, you know, she's not like one of my top authors of all time. However, when I read the concept of this one, I was really highly anticipating it coming out this year. I think it does lean more towards kind of women's fiction than the romance side, and I think this does have kind of an air of mystery about it as well. So in this one we're following Alice, who is a writer who has basically got the opportunity to write the story of a lifetime. She's going to be following this famous actress who was kind of famous quite some time ago. So I think Evelyn Hugo was famous maybe, you know, 40 or 50 years ago, but he actually disappeared from the public eye around 20 years ago. She's now going to do a piece on her life and kind of give the media her story, and Alice is going to try and secure that opportunity to be the author of that story. Now when Alice gets there, she actually realises that she has some competition in the form of Hayden, who has kind of wrote this really revolutionary biography of another famous person who's in this story. It's very well renowned, very well known. So she's kind of worried about her chances, but basically Margaret Ives, who is the celebrity here, gives them the opportunity to work with her for a month, and then at the end of that month she will decide who is going to write her story. So that's kind of the premise of this one, and I'm about 30% into this, and we have got a little bit of romance in there already. You know, you can already see there's kind of a connection between Hayden and Alice, but obviously this obstacle of them kind of fighting for the same job is going to throw a spanner in the works. It definitely is giving me Evelyn Hugo vibes in terms of the way that she's being interviewed and kind of the mystery around her. So if you like that book, I think you will like this one. This is obviously focusing more on the authors of the story, but we are getting some kind of backward excerpts into a different timeline of Margaret's kind of ancestors, because she basically wants to give her entire story and kind of the lead up to her being born and kind of just the lore around her family as well. But intrigued to see where this goes. As I say, I'm around 30% into it at the moment, so chapter 13, and I am really liking it. I think the dynamic between the characters is really good. Alice is kind of the ever optimist, but I almost think it's like a toxic trait of hers where she just tries to see the good in everything, and I kind of feel like it's maybe glossing over something that she's been through. We haven't quite had that uncovered, but it has been mentioned several times how kind of optimistic she is, how she always smiles. So I think that's a device by Emily Henry to kind of uncover something or some trauma that she's gone through in the past, and that's why she kind of has this facade on. Then Hayden is your kind of typical grumpy, stony, icy main male character who I'm guessing is going to end up having a soft spot for Alice as this goes on. But I'm really liking their dynamic so far. I think Alice is really confident, she's really strong, she's not backing down when he's kind of trying to push her boundaries. And yeah, really intrigued just to see where this one goes. So I think it'll be a pretty quick read. I mean, I've read 30% of that in a pretty quick time, and I think I'll be able to get this finished by tomorrow, so we'll see how I get on today. I'll maybe give you an update before the end of today on how I'm getting on with it, and then obviously I'll jump back in and give you my final thoughts and feelings. But so far, definitely enjoying this, intrigued to see where the story goes, and I'll give you an update once I've read a little bit more. So I've just been sat reading this for a while, and I'm up to 55%, which is chapter 21, and still really enjoying this. I think I'm not like obsessed with it or anything. I think we're kind of just going to get into the meat of the story now anyway, but we've had a fair bit of setup with obviously the MMC and the FMC, so Alice and Hayden. I've seen a lot of people kind of say that there wasn't as much romance in this as they would like, and honestly, I feel like we've got quite a bit of romance in it so far. You know, pretty much every time we're in the perspective of Alice kind of in current day, there's pretty much a romance scene within that. So I don't know if it's just a case of because we're kind of switching between Alice's POV and then the interviews that she's having with Margaret to kind of ascertain her story and get that background. I don't know if it's just that breakup of the story in between that maybe usual readers of Emily Henry don't like, but I've always thought Emily Henry is a bit more women's fiction than just purely romance. You know, I've always thought it was a good balance. Generally, she'll have themes of grief or familial drama or whatever it may be within that story, and it's balanced out with kind of the romance between the main characters. So I don't really see this one being different, other than the story that they're following on the side isn't necessarily the character's story, it's Margaret's story. And we're going to a previous timeline, obviously, leading up to the events that made her disappear from the limelight. So I don't know if that's what it is. It's kind of putting some people off this, because I've seen some people really love this, give it 5 stars. And I've seen other people who generally really like Emily Henry giving it less. And I think for me, it's kind of sitting up there with some of the Emily Henry I've read before. You know, giving me that balance. I am intrigued with the story. I do want to see kind of what the twist is when it comes to Margaret's story. I believe there is a bit of a twist in this at the end, so be really intrigued by that. I would say that if you've read Evelyn Hugo, this may feel a little bit reminiscent of that to you, just in terms of going through Margaret's story, but I do think that this is definitely from a different angle, and I don't think it's kind of a copy and paste but in a different font or anything like that. It is reading quite differently, but I can see why people have said it's almost too similar to that story, because, you know, the base formula is kind of there and it is very similar. But either way, at this point I'm still really intrigued. I'm still really invested in the storyline with Margaret, and I'm actually quite invested in the romance as well. I think there's obviously a bit of an obstacle in there which I won't go into, which kind of is giving us a will they, won't they, and making them kind of second guess if anything should happen, but be intrigued to see if anything in that side of things changes, or if there's going to be a twist on their storyline, or if it is just going to be in Margaret's. But yeah, 55% in, still quite enjoying this, so I'll probably try and read a little bit more today. I'm going to be going out tonight with my husband for his birthday, so we're going out for dinner, but while I'm getting ready I'll probably listen to the audiobook a little bit more, read a bit more before I go to bed, and then I should be able to finish this by tomorrow morning, because I think on the audiobook there's around 5.5 hours left, so I usually listen to it at 2 times speed, so that will probably take me around 2.5, maybe 2 hours and 45 minutes. So I think between getting ready tonight for going out just before I go to bed and then tomorrow morning, I should be able to get this finished. So should be able to jump on in the morning and give you my final thoughts and feelings on this one before I need to get the vlog up. Hi lovelies, so I have now finished Great Big Beautiful Life, and just jumping on to give you all my final thoughts and feelings. But firstly, I think I forgot to show you the edition that I ended up getting. This is one from The Works, so I'm guessing this is their own special edition. So I'd seen that Waterstones had a special edition, and just to be honest, I didn't really like the sprayed edges on it. It had like orange and red, and I just didn't like them together. I did see this one with the purple instead, and what really sold me on this one is an exclusive dust jacket that they have, which does have a little bit of more of a pink or purple colorway. So purple is my favourite colour, so when I seen that I decided to pick this edition up rather than the Waterstones one. But anyway, nothing to do with the actual book, but I ended up really enjoying this one. It wasn't a 5-star or anything for me, but it was a 4.25, so there were a few things that I kind of would have liked a little bit more of, but I do think that Emily Henry has a real talent for writing characters that feel like real people that you already know, or people that you maybe want to know. They definitely feel like they're always quite well rounded, and I feel like you do know them by the end of the story. I think this one definitely had plenty of heartfelt moments. There was some family drama obviously with Margaret and her background, plenty of emotional depth, but a lot of humour in there as well, very in keeping with Emily Henry's writing. And I felt like this one was pretty fast paced because of that as well. As I said before, I think a lot of people didn't really like the romance in here, but I really did. I was kind of rooting for them from the very start. I do think they kind of caught feelings quite quickly, but I believed it. So that's all I really need from a romance. If I believe the romance and if I believe their feelings, job done really. And as I say, I just couldn't help but rooting for them the whole way through. And additionally, I really did like the dual storyline, because again, a lot of people have said that because they're taken away from the main couple, it meant they couldn't resonate with them. But for me, I think just because of the way the story ends, I really loved that dual timeline and kind of going back into Margaret's life, because the way it ends, you kind of realise maybe why you needed that depth. And for me, it just added another string to the bow of this book, in terms of its strength and in terms of keeping me interested basically, because for the couple there wasn't really a huge obstacle other than her story, so it wouldn't have really made sense without having that there. I think the only reason this wasn't 5 stars for me was because the ending I think wrapped up pretty quickly. There were quite a few things that kind of happened at the end that I would have liked to sit with for a little bit longer, kind of sit in those feelings, sit in those scenarios, and it almost wrapped up a little too neatly just considering what happens at the end here. But other than that, I definitely really enjoyed this. If you like Emily Henry, I do think you'll like this one. It's very much her style. I think it was beautifully written. There were definitely moments in here that made me feel. And if you're a fan of audiobooks, I really like the audiobook for this one. It's narrated by Julia Whelan, who I really love. She's really great at voices, even though obviously if you read a lot of Emily Henry, her books will all sound the same because it is all the same narrator, but I just really like her narration. So yeah, if you're a fan of audiobooks, definitely recommend the audiobook for this one as well. But yeah, overall a really great read. Got exactly what I expected from it, so definitely recommend. So that's everything for this week, and actually I feel like I've had a really amazing reading week because obviously we started off with The Rose Bargain by Sacha Peyton Smith. This was a 4-star, but it was a very solid 4-star. Definitely a series I want to continue, so a great read. Then we read potentially my favourite read of the whole year, so The Night and the Moth. I'm still kind of reeling from that. I'm still thinking about that book, still thinking about those characters. I probably will reread that at some point within this year because I just really loved it. And yeah, definitely contender for one of my favourite reads of the year, at least so far. Then as I say, we've just finished off with Great Big Beautiful Life by Emily Henry, which is 4.25. So really happy with the reads this week. Definitely let me know if you've read any of these or if you're anticipating any of them. Obviously I really recommend them all. I've had a really great reading week. But let me know if they were on your TBR or if you have read them, what you thought of them. I'd love to know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you like this video, do remember to give it a like. And if you want to see more from me, remember to subscribe. I post 2 videos per week and it's videos like this. So reading vlogs, TBR jars, book hauls, all good bookish things like that. Other than that, thanks so much for watching this one. I hope you enjoyed it and I'll see you in the next one soon. Bye!